Welcome to the Flynn Brothers Podcast. I'm John.
And I'm Jimmy. Today's big idea. We never should have cut the cable cord.
We analyze the bloated state of the streaming market and reminisce about the good old days of getting your TV channels from a box plugged into the wall.
Later, John gives a brief history of cable, then we analyze the ways that this increasingly bygone form of entertainment lives on in our current options.
Finally, we play a game of What Are You Watching?, where I force my brother to choose between cable programs that consumed hours upon hours of our childhood.
It's all coming up. But first, here's the Solons.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah. 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 Uh-huh. Oh
YouTube TV, Apple TV Plus, HBO Max, Netflix, Prime Video, Peacock, Paramount Plus, Hulu, Disney Plus. These are all legitimate streaming services that if you enjoy watching shows, you should probably have a subscription to.
As you were listing them, I thought they were prospective buyers of the Flynn Brothers podcast, the exclusive streaming rights. But you're right. It's gotten to the point. We've hit that tipping point. What is it? Is that what they call it? The tipping point?
It's a Gladwellian.
Yeah, it's kind of a
concept.
Gladwellian concept. But yeah, it's just gotten so ridiculous. It's kind of a hack thing we're sort of wagging our fingers at. But it's true. It's just like the amount of money you have to spend on all these streaming services, and they go up every single year, if not multiple times a year, and it feels like your options are more limited. They throw ads in when you didn't used to be ads before. It's just gotten a little ridiculous.
Yeah, and I think back in the day, you used to be able to comfort yourself and be like, well, I don't need that streaming service because all they have on there is just junk. I don't need any of that junk. I don't got to watch any of that. But now I would say even the two that I would say that took the longest to kind of get their feet underneath them and that there were jokes for the longest were Apple TV Plus, which never really bought libraries of great established shows. They just threw money and they're just like, we're just gonna use all this tech money and we're gonna make shows and eventually one of these things will be great.
Yeah, I was like, Tom Hanks, here's a boatload of cash. Jen Aniston, boatload of cash. We'll make movies and TV shows around big, kind of more 90s, early 2000s Hollywood stars who were still popular, but definitely available. And yeah, it just felt like, I don't know how long it's been around now, probably 5 years or so. It really felt like the first 3 years, it was just kind of ho-hum movies and big bloated budgets and scattershot TV shows. But now it's like with the studio and Severance and a lot, one Best Picture for Coda a couple years ago. Like it has established now kind of a good reputation as a streamer where I didn't used to think I haven't ever had Apple TV, and now I'm starting to think maybe I should have Apple TV. I just got to add it to that gigantic list of ones you mentioned.
Yeah.
Right?
And I'd say the other one that I thought for a while was kind of a joke was Paramount Plus. But now, I mean, that's where Yellowstone started. That's Landman is the new hot show. If you want any of that Taylor Sheridan good stuff, you got to pony up.
Well, Paramount Plus too, they own Comedy Central and Nickelodeon. There is a broad swath of stuff, CBS, broad swath of stuff they own. And there are a lot of movies that are just only on Paramount Plus. And you're like, okay, I can sign up for the free trial and use my email, and then I'll sign up for another free trial using my kind of secondary email, and then I'll just invent an email for my third free trial. But a lot of these streamers have kind of gotten hip to the free trial thing. They know people have abused it. They've gotten hip to the account sharing thing, and so you really are hamstrung, and you can't really share accounts. You can't really do the free trial loophole. You really just have to shell out, and at a certain point, it just becomes kind of prohibitively expensive. You have to cut corners and eliminate certain streamers.
Well, to that point, together to subscribe to all of those channels that I described, it costs $160 per month.
Jeez.
That's with ads. If you want to get it without ads, it's $230 per month, which is basically triple what the already expensive YouTube TV is for cable. So in this effort to replace cable, we've now made something that is at least 2 times as expensive on top of it. And it's interesting to think back when streaming started, it was a way to get entertainment cheaper, more personalized. You're cutting out the fat of this bloated cable package. I never watch, HGTV or the A&E channel or TLC. Why am I paying for this? Like, just give me Netflix. Give me the stuff. Give me that good stuff that they have. So what do you remember about the opening of streaming? What I remember particularly is that streamers at first didn't make great TV shows. They had libraries of great TV shows.
Yeah, it was kind of just a way to get around buying like the box set DVD seasons of like 30 Rock or The Office or shows you enjoyed. It's like, oh, it was on Netflix. There'd be a couple kind of early hits. Like I remember Netflix early 2010s had House of Cards, and that was like a big, whoa, a streamer finally put out a show, and it's got, at the time before he was completely disgraced, it had Kevin Spacey and Robin Wright, like, some stars with some juice, and the show at the time was prestige TV. We watched a few episodes, I think, within the last year or two, kind of looked back just to sort of see how the show had aged, and it's okay. I mean, it's kind of like, it'd be like on USA, right? It's like an okay, solid cable show. It's not like a great prestige, critically acclaimed HBO show that we're familiar with nowadays. But yeah, it was basically just like, okay, I'm tired of buying physical media. I can pay a pretty affordable monthly subscription and get all these TV shows I watch on my DVD box sets. I could just get them through my TV. And the other thing I remember is like, we had a friend who had Netflix, and the streaming and buffering was kind of a nightmare that like it just didn't run very well. Now it's super smooth, and it's kind of crazy if there's buffering issues. People start freaking out and rioting and burning down cities. But in those days, like it was just like constant. It was like, well, it's like you can either buy the box sets for $30 to watch a season of The Office, or you can pay whatever, $4 or $5 a month and have like these buffering issues depending on where your Wi-Fi box is in your house.
Yeah, well, I think the increase of Wi-Fi speed has really helped. I remember watching all of Arrested Development for free on Hulu. That Mad Men, the first time I saw it, was on Netflix. Breaking Bad, I learned about, there's this great show on cable right now, Breaking Bad. You should catch up on Netflix by watching it. That's how I got into it.
It was pretty smart because they would kind of 6 months to a year after these seasons had aired on cable or broadcast television, they would put them on Netflix. So yes, you would be a bit delayed in watching them, but you would still kind of catch up. So it's like even if you were a season behind, you could kind of catch up in time for the new season to air. And you're totally right. It was just a great democratization of being able to see these great shows.
Yeah. And in college, I remember it was basically like you went to college with a Netflix account or the Netflix family account. And this will be your entertainment. Every college dorm room, I felt like, had a Netflix account, or you or your roommate had a Netflix account. And it was just this pretty omnipresent thing. And this worked really well for a while. And then I think everybody just realized, holy cow, Netflix is making an outrageous amount of money. Like they are putting Blockbuster completely out of business. They're putting the video store completely out of business. They're raking in billions of dollars. So everybody wants to get on it. And they start spending tons of money to get these services, these platforms off the ground, and make shows. And I think it's sort of similar to what we're seeing with AI right now, where there's this huge initial investment by all of these major companies to get off the ground at a loss. Like you're taking a huge loss. An unsustainable amount of money is being pumped in to make yourself a player in this market.
It is the crack dealer salesmanship strategy where you give the first hit either for free or for very cheap, right? It's like, take a little hit of this at a party, or hey, we'll give you the free trial Paramount Plus. Hey, it's Christmas. We'll give you 1 month free, and then we'll charge you starting on the second month. And then you kind of get in, and you're like, "Ooh, I like Paramount Plus. I like crack," and you're kind of slowly getting addicted.
That's crack.
I'm spending all my nights doing crack or Paramount Plus, whatever. The line's blurred, and then you're 2 years into it, and all the teeth have fallen out of your mouth, and you're talking to the walls, and you're spending $19.99 a month, right? And it's just like it was like what we talked about a few episodes ago with Uber Eats when we were in college, and Uber Eats was essentially free. Whatever you pay at the restaurant is what you pay on Uber Eats. They bring it to your door, and it just slowly got more and more expensive. And it's a good business strategy. You start cheap and then you upsell, and once people are hooked, and hard to blame these companies. It's an effective strategy, and pretty much every single streamer that has had success has used that strategy.
Yeah, and I think in contrast to the way that the entertainment industry used to work, where these were companies that were set up, we are entertainment companies, we are movie studios, we are cable networks, we are television producers. Instead, it was tech companies who had made a lot of money kind of on other products, using this money to capitalize kind of on this new market. So you have Amazon, you have Apple, you have even Google to a certain extent with YouTube TV getting into the market. And they just spent crazy amounts of money on stuff to make themselves seem legitimate. Amazon famously spent $1 billion on the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power Season 1, a show that is basically a USA level quality show, like USA, the cable network quality show. Not really good writing, but the set design, the costumes, the CGI, all of the bells and whistles that they could put on this, they surely did, not to mention buying the outrageously popular and well-known IP.
Yeah, hot actors as well. We missed, but yeah, I was like, it's all the sizzle without the steak, and I think that's what you get when tech companies, things that are so profit motivated, enter the world of creativity and film and television. Is you were taking this tech mindset and applying it to something that doesn't always benefit from a tech mindset.
Yeah, because these old companies, it was like, well, listen, we make art. We're trying to make money off this, but at the same time, we're trying to make a great art project, and people need to see our studio as having some sort of prestige and taste, and we set the standard for what the American public wants.
And I think it's why Apple, Amazon, they kind of, Apple in particular, really struggled out of the gate. They just kind of did not understand the movie business because they weren't in the movie business. They hadn't been in the movie business since Universal Studios was a chicken farm or whatever it was in the early 20th century, right? A lot of these companies and studios have just been around so long. And so, yeah, when you come in, there's going to be some growing pains. There's going to take a few years to develop and figure it out. You can't just throw, $50 million at Tom Hanks and expect everything to work out dandy.
But at a certain point, you can actually throw enough money at something to make a consumer be like, all right, fine, I will check that out. Like Rings of Power, I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan. I was like, all right, I have to watch this. You're bringing it back. It's new Lord of the Rings stuff. Like, all right, I'll check it out.
Sure, we could have cured child hunger in the United States, but yes, I'll watch this instead. Yeah.
Apple spending hundreds of millions of dollars on Ridley Scott's Napoleon, on Martin Scorsese's Killer of the Flower Moon. Killers.
What's with you and the plurals here? Lords of the Ring. What's going on here? Killers of the Flower Moon.
Killers of the Flower Moon. And so it was like, well, we have the new Ridley Scott movie. We have the new Martin Scorsese movie. We're a legitimate studio now.
Yeah.
We've bought that legitimacy. If it's way more expensive than any other movie house would spend money on, all the better. We want to be the people who will, there's no expense too large for us to go to.
But again, Martin Scorsese, Ridley Scott, and even back to Tom Hanks, all people who've had great careers, but again, are on the back nine of their careers. And that is kind of this Apple model where it's like, throw these kind of aging titans the boatload of money, let them make these projects that no other studio would cough up the cash for, and it kind of does buy you some legitimacy, even if it doesn't buy you critical acclaim, even if it doesn't buy you huge box office results or huge streaming numbers, it's still like, well, like, if you're a Scorsese fan and see every Scorsese movie, you got to get Apple TV. Or if you're a Ridley Scott fan, you got to get Apple TV. Tom Hanks fan, same thing. And it kind of, they force your hand. If you were an old school movie lover, movie buff, and you're really attracted to directors or stars, you have no choice but to sign up for the streamer.
That's so true. And then Netflix is another one that has obviously spent tons of money on movies that are like objectively, critically poorly reviewed. For instance, The Electric State.
Right. That was the Chris Pratt, Millie Bobby one, yeah.
They spent $320 million.
Oh, boy. I'm going to have a heart attack.
The Gray Man.
Oh, that's a Russo brothers picture, yeah, with
That's
Gosling,
right.
yeah.
$200 million. Even movies that are like good movies. Like we just saw Benicio del Toro's Frankenstein.
I think you probably mean Guillermo del Toro's
Boy,
Frankenstein. What's going on? I go, Will, a cup of coffee, energy drink. We need Benicio. He doesn't know the letter S. What's going on tonight? What's going on tonight? Is this what happens when you're working off the outline? You can't look and think and talk. What's going on here? All right. Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. How much did that cost?
$120 million.
Wow.
The Irishman, here's the funniest thing about its budget. It is in between $159 million to $250 million. It's just $100 million, give or take.
Where did it go? Where'd that hundo million go? Who knows?
But this doesn't matter to these companies. Netflix has 300 million subscribers worldwide. A third of them are from Europe, Asia, and Africa. They're worth $527 billion. Wow. So even these multi-$100 million projects, it's a rounding error. It doesn't matter. Like they can just throw this money at it. Then now you have to come back. There's always a reason to come back to Netflix. There's always something on there that's worth checking out. And we've also now hit the point where, okay, we're established. Okay, we're hooked. Okay, we have stuff that you want to see. Now the price is coming back up. Now we're recouping the losses that we ate in the beginning, and the consumer is having to pay for it. And I think we're going to reach a point where people are just like, I just can't afford all of this stuff.
It's what happened to cable. I mean, when we told our folks about YouTube TV, yeah, there were buffering issues. Yeah, maybe the channels were somewhat limited. But when we first signed up for YouTube TV, I think now it's about $82, is $65 a month, and that was probably 3 years ago. And at the time, I think our folks were paying like $180 a month on cable, and that's expensive for cable TV, especially when we're Sacramento Kings fans. We watch Kings games a few times a week when they're semi-watchable. We watch the big sports games. We'll watch the Super Bowl, the Oscars. Like there are reasons to still have cable and still have YouTube TV, but for the most part, it's just like, why are we paying this much for something that I'm watching like maybe twice a week? And I do think the streamers are kind of heading in that direction. To your point, there's only about a dozen major streamers, so it's different than the hundreds of cable channels that there were. It's all been like kind of consolidated and compartmentalized. But it is sort of hitting that point where there's a lot of stuff on Netflix I'm never going to watch. Or there's stuff on Netflix I would love to watch, and I have it in my watch list, and then it's gone a month later when I finally have the time to sit down and watch it. So I think there is this growing frustration with, I don't know what content is on what streamer. I don't know where to find this thing I want to watch. And you don't want to turn into one of those, like, total nerds who's like, you gotta rely on physical media. Like that's just gonna be a boatload of cash too. So it's just a shame there isn't a cost-effective, value-effective method to solving this entertainment issue.
Well, I think to reference a film that we recently watched on Netflix, The Dark Knight, we're going to have tryouts. I think what's going to happen now is that it's going to be a blood battle between these massive companies to see which one's going to stick it out. Most recently, ESPN was pulled off of YouTube TV because the mouse and Alphabet got into a dispute over how much Alphabet should be paying the mouse for for ESPN.
Rights to air things like Monday Night Football. There were 2 weeks in a row where there was no Monday Night Football on YouTube TV, which for most people is cable. It was just unthinkable in the cable days that there would be 2 weeks in a row where you could not watch Monday Night Football. I mean, it's almost un-American, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, people were upset, and I think that they were rightfully so. But it makes sense on ESPN's part to hold out for a little bit. It's like, hey, maybe we can peel a few people off YouTube TV, get them over to Hulu, or maybe these people realize, all I really do is watch sports. Maybe let me check out that new ESPN app that has everything on it, which is yet another streamer that is entering the field.
Or the NFL package, which I think the NFL's an investor in ESPN and all this other stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of these kind of corporate shenanigans and leverage and negotiation tactics where it's really just the consumer who suffers, and it's kind of a pity.
And I actually don't think we're going to see a next thing beyond streaming in terms of your traditional sort of looks like cable type of package, because all this is happening at a time where the people who are growing up now watch TV shows at an all-time low rate.
Is that right?
The Gen Z, Gen Alpha consumer is much more on YouTube, on TikTok. That's where their watching hours go to. They want to become YouTube stars. They want to be creators on TikTok. We've seen kids in real life say stuff like, hey, chat, check this out, because they view the world through this different lens of being a social media performer for everybody else. And I think the other thing about that too that's going to also undercut these highly expensive streamers is they're more popular and they're cheaper. I mean, these people are getting millions upon millions of viewers. They're sitting in gamer chairs in front of a webcam in a house. And they're not spending hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, it is so weird how there's been this devaluing of prestige television and great actors and big budgets and stuff. Even though these streamers or streaming companies are spending money on this, the streamers are probably next going to turn to streamers. Like you even see Amazon Prime's got the Mr. Beast games and all these like kind of YouTube streamers are now going to maybe start becoming the stars of these what do you call it, streaming. I'm just mixing up my streamers, but like Apple TV, Peacock, etc. They're going to get YouTube streamers, and that's just going to be so weird where it's like these kind of next gen versions of cable are then going to be going to the internet. It's just going to be this weird mishmash of old media and new media. And frankly, like a lot of the YouTube streamers watching people play video games, watching these cooking videos, it works okay on a teeny like 6-inch by 3-inch phone, but up on your TV just looks wrong. It just doesn't look suited for it. Oftentimes it's vertical alignment, which won't even work on a television unless you flip your TV sideways. But yeah, it is just like it's just hard for me to imagine. I almost wonder if people are even going to have televisions in their house. Is it just going to be iPads and phones and you're just kind of walking around with it? I mean, obviously the next step will probably be microchips, but we got some debating to engage with before we get there.
I think you could perhaps start seeing vertical television screens would be pretty funny. Sorry to bum you out too much. But I actually, to back up to what you were saying before, I actually don't think the people who stream on YouTube, I don't think they need or even potentially want Apple or Amazon coming in. They don't want their incursion. They don't want producer notes, You
make
don't
enough
need
money. You make enough money, and you're totally right. You don't want grubby studio hands interfering with your tutorials of Fortnite. Who needs it?
Yeah, and I think we've also seen the film and television industry, in addition to its fracturing in terms of where you get your entertainment from, it's also fracturing in terms of where entertainment is coming from. Hollywood is no longer this only place you can make television shows, only place you can make movies. It's spreading all around the world. And the film industry has hits still, one battle after another, and I think there's still going to be things that bring people out to the movie house, but generally you'd have to say that it's been somewhat limping after COVID, that it just hasn't quite hit the highs that it did before, and it's hard to kind of see it ever happening again just because of how easy and omnipresent and available that our entertainment options are at home. I mean, your TV screen at home is almost as high a quality as what you get in a movie theater, and you don't have to go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned one battle after another. That was one, too, where the movie maybe broke even financially, if not was a little under expectations, but it was critically acclaimed. Sinners kind of both critically acclaimed and made some good money. We had Barbenheimer. There have been these glimmers of hope, but I do fear it's just kind of one of these things where it's like, well, there's less movie theaters, and before that there were less drive-in movie theaters, and before that there were less playhouses and vaudeville and stuff like that. And it's just like, I just wonder if when we're old men, TV, movie, this shit's all going to be dead, and we're all going to have, phones and iPads, and that's what we're going to be watching, and the best we can hope for is just old YouTube clips of, rerun of Burn Notice, something from our cable-riddled childhood.
Heydays. It's almost like the circus is in town when a big movie hits, and I think, the circus, that used to be the number one way that people got entertainment, and, when the circus comes to town, I'm sure it still turns a bit of a profit. But
I just don't know. Like in 50 years, are people going to gather around and make hot wings and order pizza and watch the Super Bowl? Are people going to care or watch the Oscars? Like, these are things that even now I look at young people, I'm like, why would they care? Like, they're just not interested in this sort of stuff. So I don't know if it's something where they'll get older and they'll eventually, have a taste for it. Like, Brussels sprouts. You don't like Brussels sprouts when you're a kid. You get older, have them done well, you kind of like them. I don't know, though. It might just totally change.
Yeah. Chat, sound off. What do you think about that? Just kidding. So we have kind of gotten to the depressing current state and grim, somewhat future, perhaps, of entertainment. Let's remember a simpler, better way to consume entertainment right after the break. All right. So as opposed to that plethora of streaming services, in my eye, there used to be about 3 ways you got entertained in the old days. There was cable, obviously, physical media, stuff you buy, put it in a box, it plays.
VHS, DVDs, etc.
There you go. But also the video store.
Ah, the video store.
The video store. Netflix killed it.
Yeah, slit its throat.
Yeah.
We loved going to the video store as kids. We went to Blockbuster, went to Hollywood Video, but near us, we lived near a Tower Records, and Tower Records had a Tower Video. And I believe there was a deal where you could rent a video on a Thursday night or Friday night, and as long as you brought it back the next morning, it was like half price or something, because they wanted, it was a little more socialist, the video store. We all relied on the same copy of Good Will Hunting, right? We couldn't just to pop it up on any TV in the neighborhood. But yeah, man, the last gasp of the video store really for us was when we moved to Los Angeles and we had no money, and we belonged to the Los Feliz Library near our place. And the Los Angeles libraries are like video stores because there's so many producers and actors and people in the academy who get all these free screeners and they just donate them because they don't want them. And so the libraries were just stuffed with videos. And so we'd go basically a couple times a week and peruse our library like a video store. And it was awesome, man. Like, again, Netflix streamers had totally taken over, but it was such a great feeling. Like, it just reminded us of when we were kids and you'd discover new movies and old classics and you'd take a chance and sometimes you'd be disappointed, but hey, that's life. You can always go back to the video store and try again.
Yeah, I remember piling into the car, mom taking us in there. You're kind of loose. There's an edgy sort of countercultural feel to into the video store, there's a very specific smell that is just gone. It's the smell of hundreds of thousands of VHSs and DVDs. It's the smell of the plastic box
the plastic,
that it came in. There were the slick, probably bags that are going to be around for many thousands of years that you would take your video home. There were snacks. There was like that bucket that was like popcorn ready to go. Like if you put it in the
I we never bought the like packages of Pop Secret and Raisinets that were in line at the video store.
That's a ripoff. The markup.
Go to Dollar Tree or Walgreens. That's where you get it.
But I think there was just something obviously much more tangible about it, and also it was a reason to leave the house.
Yes.
It was you're going out to the video store, and then you got to go back to the video store to return stuff. I mean, we talk about how much time people just spend in their own apartments and homes nowadays. Part of it is because you just don't have to go out to get things. I mean, going to the video store, that's a 2-time, at least a week. You had to go out of your house and you had to come back and go back. And, that makes you run errands. You run into people. You see somebody. You have to wait in line. Oh, what are you getting? Oh, I've seen that. Oh, I want to see that. You talk to the video store clerk who's this repository of arcane cinema knowledge.
Or a teen who needs a summer job. Yeah, I mean, the same could be said about Amazon. We no longer pop into Target to buy toothpaste, toothbrushes, just get it on Amazon. And we've lost this. The late Pope Francis wrote this Fratelli Tutti that we both read, I remember, over COVID. And he talks about with COVID and just our modern day, we've lost a culture of encounter, he called it, where, like you say, you go to the video store, you go to Target, all these times where you meet random people, you meet off-putting people, you meet desperate people, you meet wealthy people, you meet people who agree with you, disagree with you, whatever. It's just part of the human experience, and that's something we've really lost, particularly with the loss of the video store.
It was a hassle, and in a good way, right? Like, I think that, you could, oh, God, I forgot to return that movie. I owe $3 or whatever. This is something, too. It's like, and tonight I just bought a bunch of stuff on Amazon that I needed. I didn't have time to go to Target. It would have been difficult for me to make that trip. But at the same time, you kind of had to budget your life around that.
Yeah. All these things that supposedly make our life easier, give us more time. Where's the time go? I haven't found any of the time. I got less time than ever.
Well, less time than ever is why I keep my histories brief, and this is now the brief history of cable.
Great.
Are you ready?
Do it.
Starts out as a way to get television to remote areas. You would set up an antenna and you would run a cable directly to that antenna, plug it into your box, plug it into your TV. Presto, you've got TV just like a city slicker, even though you're out in the boonies.
What was the antenna picking up? Like satellite?
No.
Right,
Microwaves.
Oh,
like
wow.
radio waves, like basically the same way that they send it. And then the FCC is like, we can't have people just sending microwaves to send signal.
We're going to cook our citizens.
Yeah, exactly. So, but in the 1970s, they loosened the restrictions, as well as fans of this pod will maybe know what technological advancement happened around the late 60s, early 70s.
Yes, we landed on the moon. Is that what you're referencing?
Yes. And thus we started shooting what up into the atmosphere?
Oh, the aforementioned satellites?
Satellites. So
wonderful.
Satellites start launching, and then this makes cable much more accessible and doable.
I read a book about the beginning of ESPN. Maybe you'll get to this, but I think it was like in the late 70s where these guys just basically found a satellite hookup, and that was kind of how they were able to just start broadcasting ESPN. I think, wasn't that sort of how a lot of these cables kind of started?
So that's how they
started,
That's how they get going. The very first big one is HBO. In 1975, they broadcast the Thrilla in Manila.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. That was Muhammad Ali and was it Joe Frazier?
It was Joe
Yeah, that's
Frazier,
right, yeah.
sort of the Logan Paul versus Mike Tyson,
right.
of another time.
Totally equivalent cultural figures. Absolutely. Logan Paul, Muhammad Ali, just total Spider-Man meme
Yeah.
pointing at each other, the exact same. Yeah.
But like kind of what Netflix did, this was a event that everybody wanted to see.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, I guess I have to get cable. Next, Ted Turner, who had local networks in
Yes,
Atlanta.
yeah.
His networks are sent nationwide, some of them in 1976. Eventually, this would include big names such as CNN, USA, TNT, TBS. How many days of your life would you reckon that you have spent watching USA, TNT, and TBS?
Oh, an embarrassing amount. For some people, lifetimes.
Yeah.
For me, just lazy afternoons. Yeah.
Probably a couple months. I
Yeah,
would guess.
probably a couple months, I'd say.
Then comes the Christian Broadcast Network from Pat Robertson, the famed
yes.
televangelist
Yeah, that's
in
right.
1977.
That's right.
ESPN and Nickelodeon are launched in 1979.
You know what's so crazy is this is almost like 50 years ago, a lot of this stuff. Like, when you still think of the 70s, and you're kind of like, that was like 30, 40 years ago. It's like, 50? Oh, dear God, yeah.
It's 50 years ago. 1980, MTV is launched.
Yeah.
And, you know, like streamers, this is a kind of a tidy little cable package at first. You know, first you had your Netflix, and you had, what was the kind of the first one? Maybe Amazon. What was the Hulu?
Hulu was one of
Yeah.
the early streamers. Yeah. Netflix, I remember kind of being
Dominated.
the dominating
And then everybody
one.
else kind of popped up at the same time,
Yeah,
which is what happens here. This cable package proliferates. From 1980 to 1999, cable networks rise from 25 networks to 79
Wow.
networks. Everybody buys one package.
Yeah.
You subscribe to cable, despite your different tastes. It's one big gumbo pot that everybody's eating from.
I also kind of liked this part of our culture, and it was part of the monoculture. It was just like everyone's got the same channels. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit. This is what it is.
Yeah.
No a la carte.
Yeah.
No substitutions off the menu.
Yeah.
This is what we're serving.
Yeah, it's one big buffet. And look, you just like eating the Asian section of the buffet, have at it. You want Italian, you're a chicken parm guy, sure, go nuts. But
All
this is-
dessert, go
Yeah.
for it. All dessert, have at it.
But
yeah.
this is the buffet. And so you have to pay for the entire buffet. And this supports the whole sort of cable ecosystem. ESPN obviously really benefited from this. And it was also somebody who benefited the other channels in turn because of how many people wanted to watch ESPN. All of these other kind of networks were able to get in on the pie.
There's such a nostalgia factor to what you're talking about when you just rattle off like MTV, Nickelodeon, ESPN. And you kind of get it still when you like stay in a hotel and like maybe the TV doesn't really have a guide and you're just kind of flip through it, and it's just like VH1, MTV, ESPN, local network, And
Spanish.
there's just a rhythm to it. It's like there's the Food Network and Bobby Flay's cooking, then bam, you go over and it's a rerun of Golden Girls, and then bam, it's a music video. And there's just this like there's a broad swath, there's a ton of options, but you got to figure out one of these to watch.
Yeah.
And I just kind of liked that feeling of you just turn on the TV and what's on is on. You don't worry about recording, you don't worry about saving things. You just watch whatever is on TV.
Yeah, I'm coming into the middle of this movie I've seen a dozen times.
Yes.
Great, I love this part.
Yes.
And I think in addition to that, the real lifeblood of cable is sports and news.
Yes.
Sports are allowed to really showcase a much wider range of sports than we've ever seen, and news turns into a 24/7 product.
And I would even say syndication, like sitcoms and like just reruns. I think that's the lifeblood. It's like the things that are always on are like sitcom reruns, sports, and news. Those are the things that really could and were made 24-hour cycles.
Yes. And then shows discussing the sports and the news also come up, are a big invention of cable.
Yeah.
You get huge sports shows such as First Take, Sports Center, Pardon the Interruption, all shows that basically are things that I think have influenced the way that we consume information, period.
Yeah,
Like First Take, there's so much of that debate culture in America now. Sports Center, the scrolling on the side of the thing. Pardon the interruption is basically the first podcast. Two guys discussing things about a wide variety of stuff. So these are very influential, and I think we would be remiss if we did not mention the predominant news network that went on to cable, Fox News, which determines the reality of half of America.
Yeah, you got to tip your cap just how influential and impactful the network has been. Who was the head forever? Rupert Murdoch, was that who it was? Just this, and you see it parodied in the TV show Succession, but just this obsession with sensationalism and presenting the news, but in a way where it's like a soap opera, and that the people, a lot of the anchors are like beautiful blonde women, heavily made up, and then the news is just like apocalyptic a lot of the time, and this just weird cocktail where it's like sexualization and fear, and then outrage, and just like it is just television at its best and worst. It's like kind of the basest desires of television being fulfilled, and it's why it sustains so long. I mean, while ratings die on so many networks and so many shows, Fox News is held pretty steady, and it's a lot of the older demographic, obviously the more white conservative demographic, but at a certain point, like if you're viewing it from like what's effective, profitable television, it has been unbelievably successful.
Yeah. I mean, I think there used to be more of this, like, we're going to determine what news we give the people, and we're going to make sure that our program is good and it is really, truly not just quote unquote fair and balanced. But Fox News, I think, really shifted the dynamic, and now we're pretty much in the media ecosystem that it created.
I kind of like Miko system as sort of a hybrid word. Yeah, the news too has reflected this sense of, well, it's no longer a monoculture, right? It's not people objectively delivering the news. It is, you can pick and choose what news you receive and who gives it to you. And I think that is such this cafeteria style of media we have nowadays, where it's like, it's not just pick whatever is within the limits, it's pick whatever you want and there'll be something to satisfy you.
Yeah. What are you coming wanting? We can give that to you.
Yeah.
And kind of on the opposite side of that coin, there was this taste that was created by many cable networks. But before I get to that, the golden age of cable, what would you say the year is the highest amount of cable that people had?
The most subscribers, people were subscribed, had cable subscriptions. I would probably say sometime between 2000 and 2010.
2010 is exactly right.
Is it really?
105 million subscribers to pay TV. So that's a penetration of 90% of U.S. TV-owning homes.
Wow.
In 2012, the number of scripted entertainment shows on basic cable surpassed broadcast TV.
Wow.
So there was more scripted entertainment, and some of that is some of the best shows of all time. There's many, obviously, HBO dramas, The Wire, The Sopranos, but I almost consider HBO sort of off to the side.
Yes.
I'm thinking of just...
Well, it's not TV, it's HBO.
There you go. But the straight up just regular old cable channels gave us Breaking Bad, Walking Dead, Mad Men, Sons of Anarchy, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, not to mention The Daily Show, Pawn Stars, Deadliest Catch, SpongeBob, Inside the NBA. I mean, cable gave us SpongeBob and Shaq on TV every night.
Not to mention so many reality shows,
Yes.
the Kardashians being at the top. It really just blows you away. 2010 is fascinating because that to me felt like the 2010s, that decade in particular, felt to me the shift moving towards streaming. Because I think House of Cards kind of comes around 2013. And I think 2010 was probably around the time Netflix started moving into streaming versus kind of the DVDs. But that is crazy. It was as late as 2010. I really would have guessed earlier in the 2000s.
I think it was, perhaps a inertia There was just so much momentum that cable had that nothing had really changed it. But I think I've pinpointed the thing. But before that, I think what's interesting about this is that cable isn't even necessarily going towards like, oh, this is obviously going to be a hit, a show about ad executives in the 1950s and 60s. That's a hit. A science teacher who makes meth. Oh, obviously the American public's going to love that. A sponge who lives under the sea. Obviously, that's rock solid. We got the algorithm to prove there's demand for that. These were risks. These were people taking a chance. Always Sunny in Philadelphia, too edgy for network television. Now the longest running sitcom, live action sitcom to ever be.
Yeah, it's been said ad nauseum, but again, this tech mindset, this profit motivated mindset of what will please the algorithm, what television will please the most amount of people, like going to the audience. What does the audience want? Fulfill what the audience wants. It's what does the creator want? What is the creator's vision? And sometimes it succeeds and sometimes it flops, but you got to just take a shotgun approach. Make a lot of it. Every year there would be a dozen new sitcoms, a dozen new dramas per channel. It was just like, okay, like most of them were crap and got canceled pretty quickly, but it's like a couple held on and and made enough money to make up for the rest of it. And it was just a shame that this went away and there wasn't enough satisfaction with the amount of money that was made by that.
And even if you had a failed pilot or your show only went for one season, well, that kept a lot of people paid. That kept a lot of people employed. And even if it wasn't a hit, well, you're still in the mix. You're still around and you're still able to kind of make a living in this industry. However, I think the thing, if I were to pinpoint the innovation that simultaneously tipped cable and the entertainment industry on its axis, I would say it is on demand. On demand, I think, broke the need for you to stick to TV's schedule. You can get what you want when you want it. Oh, you missed that show in the old days? Too bad. Maybe there'll be a rerun 5 weeks from now and you can catch up. Or you're going to have to watch the very beginning of the episode where it says, if you missed last week, that was the old way that you used to catch it. But now it's like, oh, well, I can just watch it tomorrow. And then I think this opens this Pandora's box of, well, if I can just have whatever I want when I want it, that's what I want all the time. Like, why would I watch whatever some executive decided should be on TV? I should decide what's on TV.
Yeah, it's true. There's just this loss of surprise, this loss of discovery that comes with choosing every single thing you watch. It's almost too much autonomy. And I don't know. You think in concept it's what you would like, but even when I record a sports game, and even if I don't know the result, watching it on a delay, it just does lose some of the momentum that watching something live would have. And sometimes, like with the recent Dodgers World Series, like I could have recorded those games and watched them later, but I kind of like, I got to get home early and watch the Dodger game. Like, I just kind of was like, I'm going to stick to like what it used to be and like watch this with the whole world. And it is just kind of a shame we've lost that. And that's the same thing with movie theaters. Like, there's something so potent and powerful about going to a movie theater and seeing, like, in particular, a comedy or a horror film or an action film and laughing or being scared or being shocked with hundreds of people in the same room at the same time. And you get the same feeling on television. And it is just kind of a shame we've lost that. And I think you're totally right. On demand was kind of this bridge between cable and streaming. You can't turn back once you've crossed over.
And I think, too, the streaming, they take that concept and they're also like, we're going to cut out that bloat. You don't watch these other channels. Don't worry about those other channels. You just pay for what you want. And by the end of 2025, only half of American TV homes have cable.
Wow.
So that is down from 90% in 2010. So it has just been a precipitous climb, or precipitous fall, from 90% to now 50%.
And that's in just 15 years.
Yeah.
I wonder at what point it was 50% and got to 90%. I'm sure that took a heck of a lot longer than 15 years.
Yeah.
But, I would not be surprised if it just continued to fall. I mean, I would it really shock you if in the year 2040 only a quarter of people had cable?
No,
That would not shock me at
I would
all.
probably take the under.
Less than 25%.
I would guess less than 25%.
But dag nabbit, I'm going to be part of that 1/4.
That's right. That's right. So we'll talk a little bit more about cable's legacy and future right after the break. If I were to sum up what cable did to entertainment in general, I'd say it just really opened up our options. It loosened things up. It made it more adult, complex, nuanced, trashy, sensationalist. Like, it just gave us a wider variety of entertainment than you used to get just from the networks, which seem to be very tightly controlled, almost censored in their nature.
Well, they were censored
Yeah.
and still are censored. But yeah, I completely agree with you. I mean, it's what we spoke of before, where it's just like, these are the options. There's enough of them. You should be able to fit and pick something within this set of options.
And I think the king of this really is HBO. You really just can't overstate the impact that it has had on TV and movies and just entertainment in general.
It seems to be at the vanguard of dictating all taste in Hollywood. That's really what it seems like in terms of film and TV.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that cable did, in addition to, getting on demand and coming up with these channels, these varieties of channels that are more personalized, more specialized, it's really started the process of what we have today with social media and the algorithm. Now, every person who has an account who's producing content is their own channel. There are now infinite channels from infinite providers. And I think we took for granted having an array of entertainment all in one place. Now, when you watch TV, you're basically like, all right, well, let me go to Netflix. Okay, I finished watching that show. Oh, I want to watch that other show on HBO Max. Okay, let me go over there and let my smart TV calibrate and buffer, all the while it's listening to every single thing that I ever say, do, or think. And you're really having to go to all of these different places. Amazon in particular, which has gotten into the sports market in a really big way. It's just weird having to go specifically to the streaming service to watch basketball, to watch football.
And they're still presenting it like it's cable, and they're still doing like ad breaks, but all the ads are for Amazon shows. Like, it's just this bizarro, uncanny valley middle ground between old media and new media that is just so strange.
Yeah. And over Thanksgiving, I had what I would say is just a really classic TV watching experience that's been unchanged from time immemorial. I'm watching football on Thanksgiving. It comes to the halftime show. I'm not that interested on the halftime show. I think, like any great cable viewer, what do you think when it hits halftime?
I'll flip around.
Yeah, let's see what's on. Let's see what's on.
I got 20 minutes.
Yeah. So what do I find on TV? It's a Wonderful Life.
Starring Jimmy Stewart.
And it's the end of It's a Wonderful Life. I get to watch the final 20 minutes of it. Brought me to tears. Brought me to tears.
To George, the wealthiest man in town. Is that what they say?
Don't do it. You're going to start the waterworks again.
Brilliant film.
And it's like, I didn't think, I would love to watch the end of It's a Wonderful Life. You would have to be an insane person to pull up It's a Wonderful Life and fast forward to this is what I'm going to watch during halftime. Nobody would ever
go on YouTube. Last scene, It's a Wonderful Life. You'd have to be a psycho.
You would be a psycho. And what we've lost in the streaming era, especially if you have a service where the ads are unavoidable and you can't skip them, you can't pop over to something and see what else is on for a few minutes. There used to be a mastery of TV where you'd get into a groove. You're like, I'm watching this game and, Diners and Drive-Ins and Dives is on at the same time. I'm going to pop in between the game and Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. That, I think, really was the king of the 2-minute watch.
Oh, God, yeah, dude. You could just pop over there and you just get bursts of Guy Fieri. You know, something that's so crazy that just reminded me of. I think Netflix has what they call a shuffle feature, where it's like, don't want to pick something on Netflix, they'll just pick something random, and it's like this weird like iPodification of Netflix that again is just this hallmark to old media. Like, remember in the old days how you would just shuffle around your channels? Like, what, you mean flip through cable channels? It's like, again, this weird new media masquerading as old media. It's just so weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think too, the other thing that I was realizing, and you mentioned this like hotel experience of click, 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 the classic sort of hack cable watcher is just clicking around.
Right.
But, and what did we say? Oh, that's going to rot your brain. That is going to rot your brain, seeing all of those different things, all of those incongruous entertainment streams all at once. What is the scroll on Instagram, on TikTok? But click, 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 click.
It's like high octane crack cocaine ketamine version of flipping around on cable. Yeah, I think at this point all these brains that are, you know, just going to be fried from screens and scrolling on Instagram, the doctor's diagnosis is going to be, you know what, to fix your brain you should watch more cable television. That's going to help recalibrate it.
Yeah. But at the same time, when cable started, everyone's like, that's going to rot your brain. That's going to destroy it. And I even just came up with, I was trying to, this comparison as I was making it, I was like, let me see how many it actually ticks the box. Here are all the things it has in common. You're rapidly ping-ponging from one highly artificial scenario to the next. It is impossible to keep all the things that you're seeing in your head. It is pure stimulation. Just the dopamine hit of flipping to something new. You're getting distracted over being entertained. You're not really settling in and getting lost in something. You're just constantly distracting yourself. The grass is always greener. You're always looking for that next thing. This is good, but maybe there's another thing. Maybe there's another thing. And I feel like on the scroll nowadays, much like a lot of cable, it's like it's so just good enough to keep you from turning off the TV, but not good enough to keep your attention for any real extended period of time. Here's another commonality. Lots of ads. You can't avoid the ads, particularly on the scroll. And cable, it has to be mentioned, suffused with ads. Tons and tons
It
of
was almost
ads.
equivalent to the television you were watching. TV basically was just the shit they put in between advertisements.
And then the other thing that I think is funny, too, about the scroll, reruns. There are reruns. You see these same clips on social media, even if you've seen that clip before. Like that, I've seen this clip from Jim Carrey and Liar Liar 100 times.
This is the most depressing episode we've ever done. It's so true. I mean, you feel like you're wasting time so much when you're scrolling through, and you especially feel like a waste of time when it's like, oh my goodness, I've already seen this mac and cheese recipe get made. Oh, broken up goldfish instead of breadcrumbs on top. Yes, I've seen this before. It's just, you're so right, man. It is such a waste of time.
And I think the one difference between the two is that the social media feed is more or less programmed by you, by your preferences, and what the algorithm has determined is your preferences. What was beautiful about cable is that, sure, you can choose what channel you want to watch, but you don't choose what's on the channel. And that's what led me to the beautiful coincidence of It's a Wonderful Life. Somebody pushed that button somewhere and said, It's a Wonderful Life, Thanksgiving evening. Somebody is going to want to watch this. And they were darn right. And it is sad to me that the toothpaste cannot be put back into the tube. I think cable will continue to live on. I think it will continue to have a place in entertainment. But I think like the circus, like the vaudeville, like the playhouse, it's going to exist in an increasingly niche area of the American culture.
Yeah, and you know, with all these options, you can hold on to whatever you want to hold on to. If you want to stick to physical media like a doomsday dweeb, go for it. If you want to go to movie theaters, go for it. If you want to hold on to cable, do it. If you want to just go streamers, do it. If you want to do a mix of all of them like us, do it. And options are good, but too many options, I think, is a little problematic. I think it's good to have guardrails. It's good to have restrictions sometimes in life.
For sure. And I think the final thing on that, you brought up the culture of encounter. There's just going to be less for us to encounter together. We're all going to be encountering these things separately. Like you can, when you were talking about watching that World Series game, you could feel the millions of people watching along with you. And increasingly, it's just going to be us paddling our own little rowboats out into this ocean of entertainment. Is there anyone around? Is there anyone in sight? Has anyone seen what I just saw? You'll never know. You'll never know if you could be the only person watching that thing that you are watching on streaming. I feel like I've a few times been like, there's no way anyone else in the entire world is watching what I'm watching right now. And it is a lonely sort of feeling. So,
well, hey, to my brother John, the wealthiest podcaster in Los Angeles.
that is awful. That is what an insult.
Bastardization of a great film.
All right. Well, now that we've kind of gone over all of cable, let's dial into some specifics. I have selected a slate here of shows that you will have to choose from.
Is this our game? Are we doing our game?
Let's do our game. Let's just jump into it. You want no break.
No final break.
No
All right,
final break. Let's get into it.
Let's do
so this is a game called What Are You Watching?
Okay.
These are not the mega hit award winners that we've already name checked. These are like a relief pitcher coming in. These are innings eaters. These are the shows that you've got nowhere to be on a Saturday afternoon. You want something that you can watch for hours on end, and there's a marathon of these two shows going on, and you have to choose just one of them that you want to watch.
All right, I'm picking between two TV shows. Is this me as I am now? Is this me back in the heyday of cable? Who's watching these shows and picking between these shows?
You are who you are. You are. You are who you have been. You are who you always will be.
Okay, so you're just asking me pick between two
Gut
TV
check.
shows. All right, I could do that. These are cable heyday shows.
These
All
are
right.
cable favorites.
Cable
I've got a
favorites,
bunch
all right.
of different favorites.
Innings eaters.
Yeah,
you call
innings
them.
eaters.
All right, let's hear them.
Here we go. Legal dramas. These are two of our favorites.
Okay.
Franklin and Bash or Suits.
Oh, boy. I'm going Franklin and Bash. My favorite moment of Franklin and Bash, for those who don't know, is a couple of kind of frat bro lawyers who kind of turned the legal system upside down. Very fun show. Kumail Nanjiani was on it. I was very good on it.
Yes.
There's a scene where Franklin and Bash are in a courtroom, and they're trying to prove something about blood alcohol level in their for their client.
Yes.
And Franklin is shotgunning beers in the courtroom, and the crowd's going nuts, and the judge slams the gavel a bunch of times, and Bash is arguing, and Franklin's halfway through shotgunning his beer, and he looks at Bash and he says, "Jesus, would it have killed you to chill these?" Like, that is just vintage TNT cable television, like, just in a nutshell.
I believe I remember the exact episode you're talking about. They were trying to prove that it takes a little while for alcohol to get into your system, that whoever they were defending had like 2 shots and then immediately got behind the wheel of a car. And so their blood alcohol content was not at 0.08, which is just like the stupid, completely illogical type of stuff that you could get away with.
Yeah,
but
God, I love Franklin and Bash. They loved chicken and waffles, which is one of my favorite dishes, both characters. The thing I'll say about Suits, very sexy show, very fun show, great style to it. I found the like reappraisal interest in it. Like, it was the #1 show, I think, a couple years ago on Netflix, and I found that very odd. I mean, the first couple seasons are kind of fun, but yeah, I just found it very odd that this happens where it's like the #1 shows are The Office, Friends, Suits. It's like, again, this mishmash of old media, new media. It's just like, it's so weird. I don't know.
Yeah, slick sort of hot shot type of show. It's just really well produced and completely disposable.
Yeah.
All right, detectives. I'm going to
Okay.
give you now. Psych or Monk.
Both great USA kind of dramedy detective shows. My personal favorite is Psych. James Roday, who's the lead actor, he now goes by James Rodriguez. He and Dule Hill just had unbelievable chemistry. Great parody episodes in that show. If you've never seen Psych and you're looking for a great show to binge watch, it goes down easy and it's so funny. Tony Shalhoub though, Monk. I mean, the tagline for Monk, I think in its first season was OCD, obsessive compulsive detective.
Yes.
He's a detective with OCD, and it's just a great premise. It's a classic comedy. This plus that, both great shows. I remember there was like a middle school dance. I went to some middle school dances, but one I skipped because the series finale of Monk was on. So that's how into Monk I was in the late 2000s.
Yeah.
But Psych's my favorite.
Great. I agree with everything you say. I think Shalhoub and the Adrian Monk performance, you put it right below the Walter White, Tony Soprano.
Yeah. It's one of the great John Hamm.
Draper.
It's Don Draper. I mean, it is one of the great television performances. I mean, just actor, character, hand glove.
And he cleaned up at those Emmys awards quite often. I believe.
yeah.
All right, so a body FX comedy,
Okay.
The League or Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
They aired back to back. I loved watching them together, but I got to go Always Sunny. The League, I would say, start to finish. Now that Sunny's kind of gone like an extra 10 seasons, I just really haven't watched it the last decade. But the first, I'd say, 7 seasons of Always Sunny are as good as any comedy show that's ever aired. And just how dirty and ribald it was, and just they would push the limits more and more every season, and the audience just kind of didn't care and wanted more and more, and just how weird and specific not only the characters are, but the style of comedy. It's just not comedy you're taught. It's not like formulaic comedy. It's just like weirdo, weird thing comedy. Like there's just a lot of Charlie and Frank moments that are just very esoteric and weird and bizarre. Like you could just not learn taking a comedy class or like watching great comedies. It's just such anytime a show kind of invents a style of comedy, The League kind of does the Curb Your Enthusiasm thing, but Sunny was just so singular in its approach to comedy.
Yeah, I think The League has sort of been one of those shows a little bit lost to history. Had a lot of just insane talent.
Yeah,
on
Nick
it.
Kroll, Paul Scheer, Mark Duplass.
yeah.
It's stacked. Jason Mantzoukas is great on it. That's another super bingeable, super great show.
In addition, like had crazy guest stars. Like the algorithm has fed me clips of Sarah Silverman was on that show in guest appearances. Nick Kroll's dad was played by Jeff Goldblum.
And Ray Liotta was on it. All the football players too. They have like I think Adrian Peterson and all the great like famous football players of the day were on that show, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay. Spy show. Are you taking Archer or Burn Notice?
Oh man, gotta go Burn Notice.
Yes.
Burn Notice is the Shohei Ohtani of cable television shows. Burn Notice, if you've never seen it, the entire premise is stated in the opening narration of every episode, which I could do word for word, but I don't have to. Basically, a spy is burned and spends 7 seasons trying to get unburned, only to be burned again. A lot of crap blows up, a lot of one-liners, Bruce Campbell's chin, etc.
Miami.
Yeah, Miami. He's got a nice-looking girlfriend in the show. It's just a great, hilarious show. Very cool, very slick. Archer, similar to what I said about Sunny, it kind of invented its own style of comedy. There was some Arrested Development in the show, but there was just really sharp writing and really sharply drawn characters. And, a show that kind of had to reinvent itself, probably went a few seasons too long, but kind of the first 4 seasons are really spectacular.
Yeah, I also sort of think of Archer existing somewhat in the streaming era, whereas Burn Notice is pure cable.
If you sought out Burn Notice on a streamer, you're as psycho as someone who's Googling the last scene of It's a Wonderful Life just to feel something.
I think too, like cable, what it really had. I remember discovering Burn Notice on a marathon over the summer.
Yes.
Like I had never seen the show before, and it just was on for 6 hours, and I just killed 8 episodes of it, and I was just like, this show is bad, but it's great.
There's something interesting with cable shows versus kind of these prestige streaming shows. Prestige streaming shows are like a hearty IPA. You could have 1 or 2 and then you kind of tapped out. You're full. Whereas Burn Notice, these kind of midday cable shows, they're like Coors Light. You could knock back 8 in a row and not really even feel more than a buzz. So that is really what's appealing about these shows. They're just, even though they were in the time before binging, they are so bingeable.
Great point. Cooking shows. Chopped or diners, drive-ins, and dives.
I've watched enough of both to kill an elephant. If they were doses of tranquilizer, I could kill a herd of elephants. I loved Chopped. The level of cooking was great, but Triple D again. It's if Burn Notice is the Shohei Ohtani of cable, Triple D's the Babe Ruth. I mean, that's the Sultan of SWAT. It's Guy Fieri. He wears number 3 for the Yankees. He's just the best, man. And talk about a show that you could just watch endlessly. You could watch for 10 hours or for 10 seconds and just be totally satisfied. He's just such a great TV performer.
Yeah. Another kind of, this is sort of off the wall. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do another cooking show.
Okay, yeah.
Another cooking show. Man vs. Food or Cake Boss.
Again, 2 shows I've watched enough of to kill an elephant. Buddy Valastro versus Adam Richman. Tough, man. I mean, Man vs. Food, shorter lived, but it was like watching sports. I mean, watching Adam Richman tackle food. I think we've been talking about doing a competitive eating episode. We'll definitely do one in the future. He was just such a watchable TV personality, and Buddy was too. And he had a big Italian family, super stereotypical. And then the cakes he would make were so satisfying. You would see them. You would see how the sausage got made, right? Yeah. You'd see him bake the cakes, the fondant, the isomalt, all these terms I never knew before I watched Cake Boss. And then they would show up to like a quinceañera or a wedding or something and deliver the cake, and the people are like crying because the cakes are so unbelievable. It's always like a heart attack getting the cake there. They're like, we're in Hoboken, and we got to cross the George Washington Bridge, and there's the speed bump, and the tire went flat, and it's like all this Italian confusion, and they eventually get the cake. The refrigerator on the truck's busted, and they get it there, and it all works out. But yeah, man, I'd probably, if I had to pick, probably Man vs. Food, man. I loved that show. I love that show.
Adam Richman is one of the few people, and this is a harder skill than it gets credit for, is one of the few people, along with Guy Fieri, who's the all-time best, and probably Bourdain, who can go into a kitchen and talk with the chef in a fun, relaxed, easygoing way. So many of these food shows, you see people try to go back there and like pal around or ask questions or put in comments, and it just feels so like even chefs who live in kitchens who should be comfortable and they're not.
Last thing I'll say about Adam Richman, he used to do this thing when he'd put down the meal or whatever. The crowd would be behind him, and he would have the final bite of like a giant pizza or something. He'd hold it up to the crowd would go nuts, and he'd hold it up and then put it down and put his fists up. I will say to this day, if I am eating a gigantic meal and cannot believe I finished it, and I get to the last bite of a burrito or whatever I'm eating, I hold it up to whoever I'm eating with, and I'm like, yeah, baby, yeah.
True showman. Okay, 2 more here. This one might be more for me. I'm not sure how many of these you've watched. Weird Sports. I'm pitting to you the Westminster Dog Show versus the World's Strongest Man competition.
The dog show has never really done a lot for me. I can watch it for like 10 minutes, but I kind of just couldn't give a shit. I don't care that these people like sleep next to their dogs and comb them and shampoo them all the time. The World's Strongest Man is insane. When they're flipping the tires, when their veins are bursting. I mean, the craziest is when they don't do it, is when they're trying to deadlift whatever it is, 1,000 pounds or whatever, and they're getting it so close, and then they can't do it. Like they literally like pull a muscle or just can't do it. It really is just like barbaric ancient Greece, like sports and Olympiad, but it's so cool to watch. So I would go with World's Strongest Man.
They're awesome too. I mean, I think people think of strong men as like Arnold, like the physique competitions. If you've never seen a World's Strongest Man, these are just mountains of men,
houses,
men.
Yes.
You have to have like a layer of fat in order to support your body when you're making these lifts.
World's Strongest Man was for when you couldn't sleep and were up at like 5, 6 in the morning, ESPN for some reason would just shotgun from 4 to 8 a.m. a bunch of World's Strongest Man.
All right, this is probably the toughest one. Cable is also known for running movies with long commercial breaks. They could take up to 4 hours to take it all the way down. These, I think, are two of the all-timers. Are you watching Saving Private Ryan or Gladiator?
You know, man, I was just talking about Saving Private Ryan, which I haven't seen since I watched it for the 1,000th time on TNT in the mid-2010s. That opening sequence where they're storming the beach at Normandy. And the hilarious thing about cable, they'd show bullets whizzing through heads and into throats and guys getting stabbed and body parts blowing up. But if they said the word crap, it was bleeped, right? God, man, for me, honestly, I mean, I remember when Saving Private Ryan was one of the first movies when I was kind of like in middle school I saw that I really was like, I really appreciate this as a film and just the cinematography and the acting and just the vision and just, you know, the historical context and what it captures. I mean, the plot's a little ludicrous, right? They would risk the lives of whatever 24 men to save one guy in the middle of like, hey, we're about to win the war. It's just a little odd. It's very like 90s movie. But and I know you love Gladiator, so I hate saying this, but I'd probably choose, if I'm on cable, I'm probably going to go Saving Private Ryan. I just, for how tragic and how violent the film is, it is kind of a comfort movie for me. I don't know why. It really is. It really is a comfort movie.
It's a bunch of dudes hanging out. Is in between the scenes of grisly violence. It's a bunch of dudes being dudes in France.
And there's like random cameos where you're like, Ted Danson, like Paul Giamatti, Vin Diesel, like what? How you're here in Normandy? Like what's going on here? But yeah, man, Hanks. You know, we give him some digs sometimes. His work hasn't been incredible this century, but Hanks in that movie, man. I mean, Hanks in the '90s is the greatest, one of the greatest runs of any actor ever. But yeah, man, dude, in Saving Private Ryan, earned this, you know?
Come on.
Earned this. You know? It's great, man.
Speaking of 20-minute sequences that'll bring you to tears.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely.
That's all I got.
That was great, man. I really enjoyed that. I really felt like I was flipping around at the end there. You ginned up some enthusiasm in me, and I don't know. What do you think? To celebrate, watch a little cable television. How's that sound?
Yeah, let's flip around.
You mind if I end it? Can
Please.
I wrest control back from you?
Please.
All right.
Here's the remote.
Oh, thanks. Well, please subscribe, comment, leave a rating, send questions, comments, or big idea suggestions to our business email, flynnbrospod@gmail.com. Thank you to our producer, Will Slade, and we'll see you next time on the Flynn Brothers Podcast. Take care, buddy.
No, buddy, you take care.